Winter in Helsinki, and such a winter. One of the most severe this century has known. A winter that held a whole continent in its icy grasp, from London to Lapland, from the Adriatic to the Arctic Circle. But in Finland, a land of 60,000 frozen lakes, which reaches even further north than Siberia, sub-zero temperatures are the rule rather than the exception. While many a European city is almost freezing to a halt, here it's business as usual. And when the mercury drops off the bottom of the scale, the locals take to the ice as a shortcut across the harbour. But even the Finns raise their eyebrows at the boldness of one particular venture, a plan to drive this Hillman super minx virtually non-stop for 3 weeks over a distance of 40,000 kilometers on the roads of Finland. Split-second timing will be the essence of Operation Hillman Non-Stop, and Finland's Karlsson, skipper of the four-man driving team, takes good care that everyone knows the drill as the mechanics work swiftly during this final rehearsal to beat the 10 minutes that will be allowed for each service check and oil change. For the next 3 weeks, the car will be facing the worst conditions that treacherous roads and a relentless climate can offer, and the drivers will be fighting a constant battle against the clock at speeds well over 80 miles an hour. But the Super Minx will need much more than just a turn of speed if it's to make the grade during the testing days ahead. The time, close on 3 p.m. on a bleak January day. The place, the market square in the center of Helsinki. Only minutes now before the Super Minx will begin its test of supreme endurance. Here to wish drivers and car Godspeed, the British commercial attaché in Finland, for this is truly an international occasion. Here too, Mr. Klaus Meuermann, managing director of the company which represents the Roots Group in Finland. All set, all systems go, and it's time for Karlsson and his co-driver to climb aboard. His partner during this first lap, by the way, is none other than his wife. From Finland's chief of traffic police, the final friendly all clear. But from the weather experts, only a promise of snow. During these early minutes of the journey, the placid surface of Finland's only motorway betrays little of what lies ahead. Motorways are made for speed with safety, so is the Super Minx. Safe and comfortable too, even when it leaves the broad highway. Renowned as a rally driver, Karlsson's no stranger to conditions like these, but he'll need to have confidence in the car, for this is a test where every turn of the road may hold hidden dangers. The task of maintaining high average speeds along these twisty country lanes demands an engine with a useful reserve of power. And Talking of horsepower, seconds count at every stage of the journey, but every rule of the road must be faithfully obeyed. There is no question of ignoring traffic signs even in the depths of the country, and no speeding in restricted areas. If the car is to reach the target of 40,000 kilometers in 21 days, the drivers will need to follow the excellent example set by this intrepid motorcyclist and put their feet down. To cover the immense distances planned for the operation, the Super Minx will make many returns to her Helsinki headquarters, only to set out again immediately through the streets of the capital to follow yet another route. And day by day, Helsinki keeps a watchful eye on this barometer of the car's progress. The fortunes of the speeding Super Minx have captured the interest of everyone, apart from one or two high-minded onlookers who remain completely unmoved. One of the youngest members of the four-man Super Minx driving team is Ole Hellander, first a cyclist, then a speedway rider, and now, at 29, a man with a wealth of competition experience behind him. In a single 8-hour spell at the wheel, he clocks up over 500 miles at an average speed of 63 miles an hour. And this in territory that is often tortuous, on roads that send the car hurtling and pitching forward like a bobsleigh on the crest of run. Even so, this is no occasion for merely chasing seconds. Instead, an all-out effort to discover what a first-rate family car can do when faced with some of the toughest hardships known to motoring. If the drivers had chosen only the straight, wide roads, the average speeds might well have been raised by 6 or 7 miles an hour. Here's how the scoreboard stands after 2 weeks, as the car greedily eats up the miles, and more complex than ever grows the pattern of routes which the sturdy Super Minx has followed. After so many hours behind the wheel, Carlson and his colleagues appreciate to the full the deep seats with ample head and legroom. Their verdict, draft-free and comfortable, the ideal family car. For the de-icing squad, a short rest. For the Hillman, only a friendly warning of yet another natural hazard as it probes still deeper into the country heading for the Arctic Circle and beyond. Further north, the warmest of welcomes awaits them, and this despite the fact that Rovaniemi lies almost on the Arctic Circle, not only the gateway to Lapland, but also the administrative capital of the territory. 450 miles north of Helsinki, temperatures here were minus 20 degrees centigrade during the course of the test, but neither the Super Minx nor the locals let it get them down. Indeed, the efforts of some people could only be described as tireless. One or two folk up here do have the occasional spot of bother with their transport, probably due to lack of maintenance, as the experts will no doubt tell you. But science triumphs in the end, and it's always the simple answer that's the best in the long run. Heading into Rovaniemi, it's hard to credit that this town was razed to the ground during the war. Today, it's a town that has all the advantages of modern living, but still manages to retain an air of old-world charm and hospitality. It would take more than the bitingly cold weather to stop the good people of Rovaniemi from greeting that eager car and its crew, the car that has captured the imagination of all Finland. But at each port of call, the schedule only allows for the briefest of halts, and of course for a traditional greeting. Every routes dealer in Finland is visited by the speeding super minx, and Rovaniemi boasts one of the most northerly routes agencies in the world. Wherever the car stops, there's an audience, anxious to know how goes the battle against the ruthless roads and the relentless clock. This is a journey of constant hail and farewell. Mile after icy mile is left behind as the advanced suspension system smooths out the bumps in the snow-packed roads which rise and fall like ocean waves. Driving now is the man they call Reckless Rikila. Not only an established circuit driver, but a man with experience in 3 Monte Carlo rallies, to which he can now add a short dice with a couple of reindeer. Rikila's companion is Atos Basman, Finnish cycling champion before he was persuaded into a car. A lady journalist who travelled with both drivers for a brief spell said, "Basman treats the car like a beloved woman." Well, maybe she should know. Running into Munio, the drivers tend to relax, but the schedule allows only a brief break, even for the most hospitable hotel. In contrast to the sophistication of many of Finland's larger cities, these delightful national costumes are worn by Laplanders for all special occasions, and the arrival of skiers from a nearby army training unit adds to the colourful welcome laid on for the equally colourful super mix. Leaving civilization behind, the car sets off on what is to be one of the stiffest stages of the test. For this is tundra country. Scores of miles of utter isolation, with stunted trees now the only sign of life in a dazzling sea of snow. Well, that's one way to cross the bridges. Even the most harmless-looking stretches can send the car leaping like a deer. Latitude 68 degrees north, and the midday sun at its highest barely rises above the trees. Despite the consistently high speeds and road conditions that called for constant gear changing, a very satisfactory average fuel consumption was achieved, and refueling points were arranged to suit the critical timings of each route. Seems that Carlson begrudges the car even this brief respite, for he knows that every moment spent refueling must be won back on the road. This fleeting visit by the Super Minx provides an exciting interlude in the lives of these young villagers and will certainly give them something to talk about. In the constant quest for high average speeds, one factor proved of immense importance, a feeling of absolute confidence in the smooth and positive action of the front disc brakes. In these far northern territories, 18 hours of the day finds the sun below the horizon. 18 hours of driving on headlights in a world of elusive images and strange shadows. Hour after hour, day after day, and now week after week, the Super Minx presses on. Still up to schedule, but still with hundreds of miles to go before it reaches the end of this testing run. With the coming of another night, the thermometer drops even lower. And now the newspapers take up the story. Many car tests are only given publicity once success is safely in the bag, but the Super Minx was in the news right from the start. Each driver completes on average an 8-hour spell of duty before the next pair takes over. On some of the longer hauls, however, the drivers had considerably longer stints. Carlson examines the result of a brush with a reindeer, but the animal was apparently none the worse for the encounter and sped off into the forest. As for the Hillman, she was just slightly bruised. Treacherous conditions demand tyres with special ice studs. Most of the roads encountered were either snow-covered or heavily iced, and this careful attention to the choice of tyres was of the greatest importance. Carlson, in playful mood, shows us his version of the twist. And now back towards Helsinki on the last leg of the final run, with well over 25,000 miles on the clock, all covered at an average speed of 53 miles an hour, and with the drivers holding a higher opinion than ever of the trusted Hillman. For a Hillman had already dramatically proved its dependability by withstanding the torture of 15,000 miles of Belgian pavé, also at an average speed of 53 miles an hour. In equatorial Africa, too, the Hillman proved its paces by being first in its class in the East African Safari, one of the most arduous rally courses ever devised. Midday in Helsinki, the final chapter in yet another Hillman success story, for the Super Minx has proved its dependability under the most exacting conditions that Arctic weather can offer. From the Women Drivers Association of Finland, a colourful tribute to these tireless men behind the wheel. 21 days ago, the Chief of Traffic Police started the test. Now he's officially confirmed the distance covered. From the commercial attaché at the British Embassy, a word of welcome. And a final glance at the remarkable journeys the Super Minx has made, spreading like a reindeer's antlers across the face of Finland. The final tally, 43,935 kilometers, or 27,340 miles, in 525 consecutive hours. Average speed throughout the 21 days of non-stop driving, 80 kilometers, or 53 miles an hour. This, says the commercial attaché, has been a fine achievement both by the drivers and by the reliable Hillman Super Minx, which has indeed proved itself on the roads of the world.